Hey guys, Quiv, the Lazy Geek here, and today we're going to set up a computer from scratch to use this equipment, but it can be used for anything, and that's for anyone who gets started in astrophotography and doesn't really know where to start in terms of setting up their PC. Of course, there are great solutions out there like the ASI Air or other like Raspberry-based alternatives, but a full Windows PC gives you access to really full-fledged control software, as well as planetary capture software like SharpCap, Fire Capture, or like full-fledged software like Nina, of course, or Sequence Generator Pro, even though I believe Nina is superior, of course. The PC that we're going to work with is this little thing there, which I've just reset and I've set up to be a media center for the TV there. So it doesn't have anything related to astrophotography on this. What I'm going to be using this with is this equipment here, where we have here an ASI 1600mm cool. Normally I would be using the 533MC Pro, but it's currently attached to my Newtonian upstairs. We have a Sigma 135mm f1.8 lens, and what's very interesting with this lens is that it's a Canon base, and we have an Astromechanics adapter that actually lets you control the autofocus motor of the lens, so we can actually do autofocus directly using this lens. We have a mini guide scope from QHY, as well as a QHY 5.2 camera here as well. And then the mount itself is a Hobin Crux 140 Traveler, which can be used without counterweights, even with something like my 8-inch Newtonian on top. With the tripod from Vixen with an adapter here. This is being powered, by the way, by this battery there that's powering the camera and the mount. The camera itself has a USB 3 cable that is connected to the computer. And we have the Astromechanics adapter and the QHY camera. Both are connected to the USB hub on the camera. The mount itself will connect to the computer via Bluetooth because this functionality is available, so I'll be connecting directly through Bluetooth. Cool, so now we know what we have in there, so let's get started. As always, I'm not going to use this computer directly. I will be accessing it remotely via my laptop using Chrome Remote Desktop. So this is the screen that I'm going to be showing you. So let's get started. So, okay, let me get access to this, this little thing there. And okay, now we are seeing this the screen of this particular computer. And before I do anything, the first thing I want to install is the ASCOM platform. The ASCOM platform is, let's say, the framework that gives you access to a lot of the control drivers for cameras, focusers, mounts, domes, rotators, all sorts of material that can be used via ASCOM. ASCOM is very good. And so I'm just going to Google ASCOM, and there we are, ASCOM standards for astronomy. And I'm just going to click on that and download the ASCOM platform here. So it's like the framework. It's not installing anything specific to this particular equipment. It's just what we're going to start with. So let's get this installed. So the installation procedure should be very easy. Click accept and next, except that you will see it will ask for a .NET package, very likely. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so we are in the installer now. I'm just going to press next. I'm going to select install, and maybe it's just going to work as is, and it seems to be working as is. Which is good. It might sometimes, when you try to install ASCOM, it might ask you to install .NET 3.5. Google is your friend for that, but if you search like for Windows features or something like that, you'll be able to find, turn Windows features on or off, And in there, I have it actually already installed on this particular Windows. You have .NET Framework 3.5 that you want to input, put a check in, that square thing is fine, press OK, and it will install .NET Framework 3.5. That might be necessary for ASCOM here. And in the meantime, ASCOM has finished install, so we have the basis to work with this. Now the first thing I'm going to install is the camera drivers. So we have two cameras, the QHY camera, which I'll be using for guiding, and the ASI camera. So let's start with ASI because they have a universal driver, and we have, I'm just going to go to their website, Astro Imaging Camera, click on support and then software, and we should have the native drivers for ASI cameras. So I'm just going to download that, keep that, and we're going to install that now. So let's accept this, click next, install. Yes, I do want to install this driver. And it is done. We've now installed the main camera driver for this. I am also going to, I don't have an electronic filter wheel or EAF on that, but as you can see, they do not need a native driver. They will actually need ASCOM drivers. You can see the ASCOM drivers are here. You could have them for your electronic filter wheel, you could have them for your EAF, and I'm just going to download the one for the ASI camera, even though, to be honest, I probably won't use it because I'll be using the native driver pretty much exclusively. But just in case, I can add the ASCOM driver as well. That way it's done. And not much on top of that to do. We'll just start with the drivers. I might come back to this page later. Then we want to go to QHY CCD website and click on download, I guess. Haven't done that often. It's a bit, that website is a bit more of a mess. You need to actually find your camera model. And for us, it's a QHY52L. So I guess it's going to be this. Hopefully it's going to work. And I'll want not the user manual, but I will want the system driver and the ASCOM driver. So I'll go into my downloads folder, which is here, and we have the QHY5L native driver. We're going to extract this with the standard Windows extractor, and I'm going to do the same thing with the QHY ASCOM driver, and then I'm going to install both. So let's do this. Yes, I do want to install this driver. Yes, I want to do all of that. I am going to install it. Everything's fine, and we wait until this is complete. It also installs the native WDM driver, which is kind of like a webcam type of driver, which is nice, but we likely will not need it. Then I'll install the ASCOM driver as well, just so that I can access the camera via both its native interface or the ASCOM interface. The native interface being typically quicker. Okay, so now we've installed the drivers for both cameras, and next I'm going to install the driver for the focuser that I have here. Now the focuser there from Astro Mechanics, if you go to their website, we'll get, it has the ASCOM driver somewhere. Probably software and user manuals, and you have the lens driver that's available here, and from April 2019 an ASCOM driver isn't there. Now I'm not going to use this one because this driver, if it's really from April 2019, has is not ASCOM compatible completely. It lacks the a mandatory procedure which is supposed to tell whether it supports temperature, and it does not have this function. It should, it does not. When I asked Astro Mechanics about it, they actually sent me a test driver that had the function, and that function is essential for Nina to work with that particular adapter. So I'm going to get the driver directly from my Google Drive where I have it, and if anyone needs it separately, please let me know directly. Okay, and I have my driver here. You can see it's test 2, so that's what they sent me. Another weakness of that adapter driver is that it only installs one instance of the ASCOM driver, and what that means is that if ever I have a setup with 2 lenses next to one another that I need to control from this computer there, it will not be able to control both adapters at the same time. I did have a setup like that previously, so what I did is I actually wrote an ASCOM driver from scratch for the focuser so that I could control it for both lenses at once, but obviously that's a bit too involved. Okay, so let me finish to export that. We're going to install the driver for that. Windows, very proud of itself, will tell you that it protected you. Thank you, Windows, but no thank you. And now we have the ASCOM focuser driver installed. So we can control the camera, we can control the lens focuser, we can control this camera as well. It remains to have the mount. So let's do the mount. But under downloads, firmware/driver will give you, it's a bit messy, but I think the ASCOM driver is actually part of this Google Drive that they have available. So I'm just going to get the ASCOM driver that matches my version of the firmware that's installed on that, which is 3.2.2. So I'm going to get that. And of course, for any other mount, you'd be using a different website. For example, if I were to set up my EQ6R mount, I would typically use the EQ mod driver, right? So I would download it from this EQ mod page and then use directly. But here we have downloaded the driver for my mount. No, Windows, I don't need you to protect me. And I'm going to accept that, and I'm going to install that. Excellent. So now we have installed all of the drivers, and in theory, we should be able to connect to all of the equipment without any issues. So to make sure that we can actually connect to all of the equipment, I'm going to install Nina, which is an imaging application for deep sky objects mainly, so galaxies, nebulae, that kind of stuff, not planetary. And I'll install the latest nightly. Okay, the download is over, so I'll just unzip this. And once it's unzipped, I will just install the Nina setup. Again, Windows is protecting me. Thank you, Windows. I'm glad you have my back. And we're just going to wait for this to finish installing. Okay, it's finished installing. Let's launch it, and then I'm going to try to connect to everything, see if it actually works. And wouldn't it be nice if it does actually work? Okay, so we are in Nina right now, and I'm going to try to select a camera. And there's already some good news, is that we can see my ZW camera. We can see this one, but only under ASCOM. I'm not sure why we don't see it natively. But at least let's try to connect to the ZW camera. Okay, it seems we are connected without any issues. I'm going to turn on the cooler, see if it actually does something. And I do hear the fan there starting to ramp up. So we are connected to the camera. I'm going to take an exposure just to see that whether it is working properly. We're getting a lot of noise, which is pretty much what I would expect without with the cover on. If I do it again, I should get something pretty. Yeah, there it is. We are now focused on my door sill there. So it seems to be working perfectly fine, this camera. And we can do the same for the QHY camera. This time, again, I'm not sure why the native one is not working, so that could be a QHY specificity, but because it's a guide camera. Okay, so it seems we have trouble with the ASCOM driver, so I'm going to find out and get back to you through the magic of editing. Okay, and the answer was actually easy. I just had to restart my computer, this little thing there, to get the driver, the native driver, to appear in Nina. And now we are connected, and we can take actual exposures there. Yeah, so here I have my noisy frame, so basically the dark frame with the cover on. So this is working fine. Okay, so now we've seen that the cameras, this and this are working. Let's go next to the focuser. So I'm going to go to Equipment, Focuser, and try to select my focuser. We see that we have the ASCOM Canon EF lens driver, and I'm going to validate that. And the port is wrong. So this is no big deal. We're going to open the device manager and look at whether there is anything for the COM ports. The COM ports are here, and we can see I have a USB serial port COM3, and I would assume that this is what we are looking for. So I'm going to click the settings icon, select COM3 here. The lens model is probably not listed, so it doesn't really matter just for focusing, so I'm just going to give it whatever I want. It doesn't really matter. Okay, and I'm going to connect it using Nina. There we are. And I'm going to check that when I move it, the focuser actually moves. Oh yes, it does. So we are now connected to the focuser without any issue. So this is great. And the next one is the mount. So let's get to the telescope piece, and in there I'm going to select Hobeam Titan TCS, go to the settings. We are over Bluetooth, and in the COM settings, by the way, I have already connected the device via Bluetooth, and I'm going to try with this COM4. Hopefully it's going to work fine. One of the things I did as well, as per the manual of this particular mount, is I set the speed in the device itself to 115/200. Okay, so let's validate. Let's connect, and hopefully it's going to connect. It might not be the right port, so let's try the other port. And the other port is working, so we are now connected to the mount. I am going to unpark the mount since it was parked, and I'm going to actually turn the knob here. There we are, and now I should have access to the commands, and yes, this mount is working fine. We can actually move it. So this is great. We now have the mount, the cameras, the focuser, everything's connected fine. And I am going to now go towards installing PhD2, which will be the software that I will use for guiding. So just Google PhD2, go to download, download for Windows. We're going to keep that. And then, just run the installer as usual. And I'll be connecting it to the QHY camera here. So now it's installed. I'm going to open that, and I could do the first light wizard. So we have the first step of the wizard, which is to connect the camera. I can use the ASCOM driver, or I can use the native QHY camera driver. I can say that yes, the camera is connected. From there it will actually take the pixel size automatically, and I have to fill in my focal length, which is for this one 135 millimeters, and PhD2 will automatically compute your pixel scale for this. So I'm going to click next, and now we can go towards the mount. The mount is my Titan TCS here. Yes, it is connected, and my mount guide speed is correctly 0.9. So I can validate that. I do not have adaptive optics, and I can name my profile. Maybe I'll just name it Titan and QH and 135 millimeters. And press finish. And now the wizard is done, and PhD2 will be able to actually calibrate It's connected. It wants to build a dark library, which we could actually do right now, but it's a bit too warm in this room. So I'm going to cancel that. But it can actually start taking exposures. And if we were under the stars, it could actually calibrate using the mount connection and the camera connection. So now we are connected to PhD2 with PhD2. We are connected in Nina as well. We're connected all over the place. It's great. And one more thing that we want to download, this is for planetary. I typically like to download SharpCap, and SharpCap is very good for planetary imaging. It's also excellent for polar alignment. There is a polar align feature in Nina, but to be very honest, I have never used it. So I like to use SharpCap instead, and SharpCap is great for planetary. And I will spare you the installation of SharpCap. There's not much more to see, but this is like setting up a PC from scratch to connect to astrophotography equipment. I hope this has been useful, especially if you're starting off in astrophotography. And if you like this video, please like, click subscribe, and see you next time. Thank you.